Assess the reasons why opponents of Russian governments were rarely successful in the period 1855 to 1964. So we've got to come up with some reasons why these, whatever it is we're talking about, were rarely successful. Notice rarely, it's not always um, always unsuccessful. So here you can talk about there are several themes that are all quite obvious. Opposition from different individuals or cliques within the government, opposition from parties, opposition from urban workers, opposition from peasants. I'm going to look at opposition from political parties. So firstly, we've got to look at, well, reason they're unsuccessful or rarely successful. Look at the most obvious one. And the fact is that they were unsuccessful. Political parties were unsuccessful in their opposition because, well, they weren't allowed to exist, quite simply. So under Khrushchev and under Stalin, they were banned. Okay, and they were banned under Khrushchev and Stalin, and they were also banned in this period right until 1905. Um, so that is an overarching reason. That's sort of reason one. Right, what other reason why they might have been rarely successful? Well, another reason would have been that they were poorly organized. And so a good example of this is that you can say that the whites, who were the opposition to the Lenin government who'd seized power, the whites were poorly organized, so it's poorly organized against the Reds in the Civil War, and this is similar to how the organization of the populist movement was poorly organized in its going to the people movement of 1877, um, and they struggled to achieve their goals. Um, Also, you could say that the social revolutionaries were poorly organized and spread across. Social revolutionaries were poorly organized and didn't share a common vision for the future. Poorly organized or poor vision. They would both be good. What other reasons? Well, you could say that that they were simply brutally treated, which meant that they were ineffective. So, for example, under Lenin, you had Lenin who attacked the Mensheviks and forced them to leave exiled the Mensheviks and other groups. So this is sort of force. The reason here is force and effective intervention. Force is also used against oppositions early in the period, where you had the Delyanov, the minister under Alexander II, who burnt un-Russian books. So there's sort of that's my other reason. So I had one, that they were banned across the period, two, that they were poorly organized, three, that they were dealt with force, and another reason you could have obviously refer to the force with which Khrushchev dealt with it as well. So these are some comparisons I could make. So the only thing, so that's 1874. These are the comparisons I could make across the period. And overall, in summary, I would say that opponents were not successful for this reason. In fact, but the only one that I can say, well, why were the Bolsheviks then, as a political party, successful? Well, I could say that actually the reason here is that because they enjoyed the vacuum of World War One and the Bolsheviks. So the only reason why they were able to seize this political party was because of chaos. So they were rarely successful in the period. My closing statement would be because most of the period, government was organized against them in banning them. They used force and were faced with poorly organized opposition. The only exception being the October Revolution and the Bolshevik seizure of power then.